host of the Independent Americans podcast, Paul Rieckhoff. So she walks into the White House. She gives Donald Trump a list of people she thinks are disloyal to him. And the next day, suddenly a bunch of NSC staffers are gone. What's going on?
Trump's destroying the economy. Trump's destroying our relationships around the world. And piece by piece, he's destroying our national security. And this is maybe the most glaring, most shocking, most dangerous, latest example. Laura Loomer is dangerous. She's insane. She's extreme. I'm a 9/11 first responder. On 9/11, I was standing at ground zero. I've worked with 9/11 first responders for over 20 years. The fact that she's anywhere near the president, near the White House, near anybody in our federal government is absolutely outrageous. And that in and of itself should be investigated, should be barred, should be dealt with. There needs to be accountability. Even more so, I think what's really problematic here, Katy, is the Department of Defense and Pete Hegseth haven't made a statement about the firings, but Laura Loomer has. She's extensively detailed why she thinks they're out because they're not loyal enough to Trump. So right now, she is not only helping make decisions, she's the press secretary for the president on this issue, which is extremely alarming.
Let's put up what she said on the screen. NSA Director Tim Howe and his deputy Wendy Noble have been disloyal to President Trump. That's why they've been fired. Thank you, President Trump, for being receptive to the vetting materials provided to you, and thank you for firing these Biden holdovers. Vetting matters. Why does somebody like Laura Loomer have any access to Donald Trump? I thought Susie Wiles was keeping folks like this away from the inner circle because, again, I mean, I know he's surrounding himself with people that are not traditional, but she is, I mean, she's different. She's on a whole other extreme.
She's a higher level of dangerous.
Yeah.
And not only should she not be near the decision making, I'm going to actually do something rare. I'm going to say, like, we need to defend the president from her. She shouldn't be anywhere near the commander in chief because she's so volatile, she's so unstable, she's so dangerous. She shouldn't be near White House grounds in any normal situation.
Why would she be anywhere near him?
Because he let her.
But
I
mean,
why? I got to ask him that.
What's the incentive there? What does he like about her?
I can't explain what goes on inside his head, but I do think we need to focus down on one important thing. Our troops deserve to know why a four-star general, one of only 11 four-star generals, was fired. They need to know why that person was fired by the president. And they haven't gotten a real answer from Secretary Hegseth or from the Pentagon at all. All they've heard so far is this extremist posting on X, which is absolutely dangerous and another reason our enemies are celebrating his ongoing dismantling of our national security.
The Pentagon IG is going to be looking into Pete Hegseth and the releasing of that, at the very least, sensitive material on Signal. Do you expect there to be findings that we know about?
I expect a lot more that we don't know about. I mean, we found out this week that Waltz is also using Gmail, which probably wouldn't even be acceptable in any corporate environment, much less our national security apparatus. So they'd like to spin this away, in part because they know how damaging it is. But the reality is we don't know how far it goes, and we don't even know what's ongoing. They might be continuing to have national security discussions with Laura Loomer on Gmail right now. That's why we need investigations, why we need accountability.
I'm sure there are a lot of folks that are watching this right now and pulling their hair out and saying, how could anybody vote for somebody who has people like this around him? What is happening? Who are these people that voted for him? But then you have to think about the opposite argument, which is how did they hate Democrats so much that they were willing to vote for Donald Trump? And when I was asking you about that a little bit earlier, you mentioned something happening in Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, the Democratic Party's got an all-time low favorability rating. I've been recruiting independents who I think can fight back against Trump and Republicans, and at times Democrats when they're too extreme. Dan Osborne, who ran last year for Senate as an independent, a Navy vet, a machinist, almost knocked off Deb Fischer, a MAGA Republican, has announced he's exploring potentially running again against the other Nebraska Senator Ricketts, who is a billionaire. He owns the Chicago Cubs, and I think could be very vulnerable to an independent opposition like Dan Osborne, who's shown he can raise money, he can gain traction across partisan lines, and he only lost by about 6% last time. So
the argument was that partially the reason for his loss was that Democrats started spending big on his race and he got associated with the Democratic Party. So if he runs again as an independent, what is the message to Democrats in that race?
Stay away. Let him go after her. Let him show that independents can win where you can't. And what have you got to lose? It doesn't look like you can beat Ricketts anyway, so let Dan Osborne go for it and focus on something else.
All right, Paul Rieckhoff, thank you very much.